Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thank you guys for being here as always, and I'm going to give you another review of The Last Jedi. Mostly because I've seen it 3 times now, and I can now actually kind of articulate my thoughts on it. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Now, if you were one of those people that were kind of hoping that I might change my mind on the film, and I might start seeing some flaws in the film after seeing it a second and a third time, sorry to disappoint. I still like it a lot. I like it a lot more now after 3 viewings than I did after the first viewing. First off, that opening action piece with Poe and Hux and then everything like that. I've got a lot to unpack with that. I was shocked the first time that I saw it. I was kind of, I don't know if I like this the second time I saw it. And then the third time I saw it, I loved it. So that whole jokey bit, yeah, it's cell phone humor, but it's funny. Like, we kind of got cell phone humor in A New Hope, in my opinion, with the whole, you know, we're all fine here, we're fine. How are you? We kind of got that cell phone humor, so I'm okay with it. And honestly, I love the fact that Poe just seems to open up every movie with a troll line towards one of the big baddies. I really enjoy that about his character. And yeah, Hux kind of got turned into a, how do I put this? A comic relief character in this movie. But I'm cool with that because he's the CEO's son, is one of my Star Wars friends compared him to. He didn't get there on any real merit of his own. He's just there. And that's reinforced when we switch over to the Dreadnought's captain, who mutters something under his breath about, we should have launched the fighters 5 minutes ago. That guy was cool. I want that guy in charge of the First Order. I want that. Yes, please. But onto the action bit and the bombing run and stuff. Okay, I'm worried that this review is just going to turn into me kind of counter-arguing everything that I've seen online, but sorry about that if that's the way it turns out to be. But the action beast at the beginning was just amazing. We actually got to see how good of a pilot he is. Instead of that, it was kind of cartoony when we got to see a display of his piloting skills in The Force Awakens. Like, he just kind of, like, ships just happened to appear in front of him and then he shot them with that whole big sweeping shot. It was really cool looking, but now we got to see him, you know, pull that crazy cool, like, handbrake turn thing around the fireball and then back around and behind the 2 TIE fighters and take them out, like, immediately. That was awesome. I loved that. And the bombing run, I don't know. It might just be because I've got a soft spot for old World War II movies, and that definitely felt like a Memphis Belle or 12 O'Clock High or something like that sort of feel to it. The bombing run did. And okay, bombs don't drop in space. I don't know. That's easy enough for me to headcanon away with, okay, either the explosives have too much mass to really be propelled like a torpedo would be, or it's a lot cheaper for them to be magnetic. I don't know. That's just my opinion on that. But the important part about that scene is the Paige Tico bit, the belly turret gunner that did the most rebel thing that you can see in a lot of these films. I love that. And I'm about halfway through Cobalt Squadron now. Hopefully I'll get a review of that up to you guys tomorrow. I am crazy loving that book so far. And after reading that book especially, you know the type of character that Paige is. And it makes you so, like, it impacts you so much more when you know the character. I mean, even that aside, even when you don't think about it as, you know the character already, it still is an incredibly powerful moment. I didn't start reading Cobalt Squadron until after I'd seen the movie a few times. And even in the first time I saw it, Paige's sacrifice actually meant the absolute world to me because it's such a rebel resistance fighter kind of thing. It's the sacrificing yourself for the greater good. so powerful and so good. Now, the lightsaber tossed behind the back. I don't know. It's taken me a bit to really formulate my thoughts on the nope. And I've gotten to the point, to be honest, where I'm totally cool with it. It was very Yoda Episode 5 feeling to me. It was because we put so much emphasis in, this isn't a proper representation, but we are the ones that put so much emphasis in these sticks that emit light blades. Like, we're the ones that put so much emphasis into it. And I don't know, Luke never displayed any real attachment to that saber in the original trilogy. And it's just a tool. It's a thing. And it's a thing that represents the life that he wants to leave behind. So yeah, him just, that was a lot louder than I wanted it to be. Him just doing that, it's exactly what that character would do in that type of situation. It's 30 years, guys. Like, it's been 30 years since we saw Return of the Jedi era Luke, and then he made one mistake after 25 years of being a Grandmaster, and boom, then you got Kylo, and then he hates himself, and then he just decides to retire and go off and die. He doesn't want to be the legend of Luke Skywalker anymore. He doesn't want to be the Luke Skywalker that all of us fanboys have created. Now, the Leia scene. Yes, the one where she gets sucked out and then she goes flying back in, like everybody's saying, Mary Poppins, you're Superman. I can see their point. I can see what they're saying. It doesn't change it from being very emotionally rewarding for me to finally see Leia using the Force, like actually using the Force. And to be totally honest, I'm totally cool with the fantasy aspect of it. People say it's Harry Potter or Mary Poppins or whatever. Yeah, I mean, we're talking about a space opera / space fantasy, as in, yes, fairies and stuff like that. So if you get a little bit of fairy tale imagery, I'm okay with that. I mean, Yoda could be considered fairy tale imagery. He's a little green dude with big pointy ears. He looks like a goblin. I don't know. That's just my opinion on that. But it doesn't change the fact that I loved that moment. I haven't cried at it yet, but I'm willing to bet you that at least one or two times when I view this movie again, I'm going to. Now, the Canto Bite stuff. The first time I saw this movie, I thought it was kind of unnecessary and slow-paced. After seeing it a couple more times, I've realized that Canto Bite serves not one, but two purposes, as opposed to zero purposes like I thought it did. Number one, it shows us as the audience who and what the Resistance is fighting for in this place. We've seen it a couple times in the books, a lot of times in the books really, but never in the movies. And even in Rogue One, where we kind of get the closest to the normal people that are being oppressed by evil, Empire, First Order, whatever, we've never really, like, that bit on Jedha wasn't meant to be that wasn't the lens that they were pointing at. Like, it was just a background thing while we were looking for Saw in Rogue One. So us being able to see that on Canto Bite was really, really rewarding to me. Plus, obviously, the massive payoff at the end of the movie, which we'll get to. The second thing that I absolutely loved about Canto Bite is that it shows us what happens to the characters of Finn and Rose. It shows us some character progression. It does some things for the characters that lead to other things later on in the movie, namely the battering ram cannon sequence. You get this foreshadowing right at the end of the cliff on Canto Bite, where you get to see Finn say something along the lines of, "It was worth it trashing that town," or something like that. And then Rose walks over to the fathier and pulls its saddlebag off and sets it completely free. And then she says, no, now it was worth it. And that's the trick here. You've got motivation and intent over end results and consequences. It doesn't necessarily matter what the ending consequences are. It's what your motivation and what your intent is. It goes back to the bit in Rebels about it's not necessarily about it's not as important for us to win as it is to fight the right way. Because, yes, you need to approach these things. Luke does it in at the end of Return of the Jedi. Instead of killing his dad, he tries and tries and tries to save him because he thinks that there's a chance. Luke could have been powerful enough to kill Darth Vader on the moon of Endor and then sneak up and try and assassinate or let the rebel plane do its own thing to kill the Emperor. But he didn't. And that's the trick here. It's all about motivation and intent over the consequences of your actions. You can be a freedom fighter, but when you're a freedom fighter and you're just sticking it to the enemy, you're not actually bringing more good into the world. You're not making things better. You are just causing harm to the people that you don't like. You're causing harm to the people that are making things bad. You need to approach it from if I take out this first order base or this first order weapon or whatever, will it mean greater good in the long run? Or am I just attacking the first order in order to cause pain, to get back at them and not let them win? I love that. I know I got a little bit away from Canto Bight, but my point is that Canto Bight does go further along into the story and it feeds into the characters a lot more than I think people are giving it credit for. Now, Amylin Holdo and her sacrifice. Got a couple of things to unpack here. Number one, Amylin Holdo should have just told Poe. Then all of this could have been avoided. And then DJ wouldn't have been on the supremacy and he wouldn't have revealed her plan about sneaking down to Crate, and then all these other people would have survived, and then she would have even maybe been able to survive somehow or whatever. Hard disagree. That's not Amylin Holdo's fault. She is talking to somebody who just recently disobeyed a direct order from essentially the supreme commander of the Resistance. And there's no telling that anybody out of those couple of dozen people that are in that room with her when Poe confronts her, that none of those people have either first order listening devices or are first order spies themselves. She doesn't have anything like that. And putting the blame on Amylin Holdo for Poe's mutiny, that's shifting the blame from Poe. Poe messed up. And that's a big thing about this movie, is about people screwing up. At least that's just my opinion. It's Poe's fault that Poe screwed up. Like, I'm sorry. I don't know. I just don't think that Holdo deserves nearly as much hatred as she's getting on the internet. At least that's just my opinion. But onwards to the good things. God bless Almighty. I actually need to bring up my phone real quick to read out a thing that I saw on Reddit that I'll put up on the screen here. This is just a post that somebody put up. Something that happened in my theater that explains why Star Wars is amazing. So I'm at the first showing at a local theater and the Lightspeed kamikaze attack scene happens, which, by the way, I love how that was done. This is me reading verbatim. So the theater is dead quiet in complete awe, with the white and black shots flickering on the screen as the silence is going on. And right as the last shot comes up in the sequence, this kid, this boy, probably around 8 years old, let out the most genuine and awe-inspiring wow. And it, like this person says, like Black Steel 367 says, it got to me. That's what Star Wars is. That's what it's about. It's the awe and the amazement and the sense of wonder of the galaxy far, far away. It's just... And it was a similar thing to me. No, I didn't have the romantic moment of some, young kid going, wow. And then everybody in the theater just went, oh, whatever. But even in my theaters, the most, it's either the first time it was stunned silence. The second time it was a couple of wows or whoas. And then the third time it was, keep in mind, this is like Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So these are people going and seeing it for the first time, mostly, except for, the crazy people like me. They're seeing it for the first time. And on the third time, this guy just goes, like, that is my Star Wars. A lot of people, put it towards Luke or this government or this particular scene or the Jedi or the Sith or the whatever. For me, that is my Star Wars. My Star Wars is all about making your imagination go wild and just that sense of wow. And it doesn't even necessarily need to be these special effect type shots like the Amylin Holdo attack. You also have shots like when Luke tosses his saber away in Return of the Jedi. You also have the, for me at least, in Revenge of the Sith, where Anakin is in the Jedi Council chambers and Padme is over in 500 Republica, and they're sharing that silent moment, and it's just the music kind of telling you how these characters are feeling. Those moments of just raw emotional strength just always get to me in Star Wars. That's my Star Wars. And as a side note, why wouldn't they do it as the Death Star? Whatever. It doesn't... I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. For me, I'm just headcanoning it away as that the Raddus just happened to have the right ratio, like weight or mass ratio to actually be able to do anything. And why wouldn't you just do that with an X-Wing to the Death Star? It probably would have just left a big crater in the Death Star, or it just would have evaporated on impact because it's just the X-Wing has so much smaller weight. Like, why aren't there already light speed weapon and torpedoes and stuff? I don't know. I don't know. I guess I don't analyze that much. Sorry, that's just me. That's just my personal experience as a fan. So I guess now I'm just going to ramble about the last like 15, 20 minutes of this movie, and I'm probably going to jump all over the place, so I apologize about that. So, starting off, we've got Rose and Finn. I've already kind of touched on that when I was talking about Canto Bight, but I am this close to getting that Rebel ring, with the 4 or 5 dots or whatever, and then the Rebel crest in the middle, and Rose's line about, we don't win by killing what we hate, but by saving what we love, as like a top and bottom rocker, as like a tattoo, like right here, or like on my shoulder or something. I'm this close to doing that. It just, I don't know. A lot of people think that she took away Finn's character moment there, but for me, Finn's character moment was when he committed to it. He doesn't have to die in order for his character moment to be fulfilled, for me at least. He's already made the decision, so his character moment has already happened. Him dying afterward would have just been him dying afterward. Like, it doesn't add anything to the moment for me. But I do understand the people that do think otherwise. I can respect and understand that. So Luke frickin' Skywalker. Man, I knew that they weren't going to kill Luke with just random blaster blasts. I knew he was going to walk out of that cloud. But man, that cloud of red dust. But man, It was so good. Like, now I'm going to devolve into my original review, which is just me going, oh, it's so good. But it just is for me. I don't know what to tell you. Just the cinematography and the coloring and the... Man, it was good. It's just... That duel in between Kylo and Luke, and when Luke just walks out and goes... like, it's just... That is the Luke that I wanted. I didn't necessarily need perfect Luke that's willing to do absolutely anything to save his nephew or whatever. He's walking out there to deal with some business and to stall as long as he can so that then Leia and the rest of the Resistance can get out. That is a massive heroic sacrifice. And that's when the tears start coming up, is when his apparition disappears on Crate, and then or rather, I would say that the tears start coming as soon as we get the shot after Kylo realizes that he's not actually there and he's back on Ahch-To, and we switch back to him on Ahch-To. Oh, and then the twin sons as he fades away on Ahch-To, and it's so... His characters come full circle. He's laying down his mantle as the galaxy's only hope for light after 40 years of fighting and pain and suffering, and now it's Rey's turn, and it's so good. Like, I don't know what to tell you. If you felt that just didn't work for you, or if it's not your Luke, I'm sorry. And for what it's worth, I'm going to address that complaint real quick. I have seen a lot of people saying, that's not my Luke. That's not the real Luke Skywalker. Rian Johnson ruined the character of Luke Skywalker, etc., etc. I'm going to be totally honest with you, and I might come off as kind of a prick. Sorry, though. Welcome to my world. I've been living that life for a year. Didn't know that, did you? Gareth Edwards really screwed up, and Gary Whitta and everybody else that was involved in Rogue One really screwed up my rebellion. I had a very specific fanboyish need for how the rebellion was supposed to be working, especially at that time frame right around A New Hope. I knew what the rebellion was and what the rebellion meant to me. And while I'm okay with darker sides of the rebellion being showed, they could have just done that with Cassian's thing, in my opinion. With Cassian's, killing his informant and stuff. You don't need to also add in whiny, squabbling politicians that are only willing to complain and not actually do anything, and then adding in some ridiculously, stupidly over-aggressive intelligence general like Draven. You didn't need to do that. There. That's the reason why I don't talk about Rogue One. Why? Because I know a lot of people love Rogue One. Sometimes you just don't like something. Sometimes they screw something up. And sometimes you don't like it, or you even come to the point where I was a few months ago, just after Rogue One came out. I hated Rogue One. I did not like Rogue One because it screwed up my rebellion. That's not my rebellion. But I walked out of the theater feeling that way. I picked up my phone. I opened up Facebook. And then I went, oh, okay. Everybody else, most other people seem to really like the movie. Okay. I guess I'll just be okay. It's fine. I guess it wasn't for me. I'm sorry. If Luke Skywalker, if a character in a fictional universe doesn't do what you want it to do, deal with it. It's a character in a fictional universe. It is a fictional character in a fictional universe. And if it matters so much that you get emotionally damaged by it, sorry, seek some help. And I'm not trying to sound like a smartass. I'm trying to be honest with you. If a character in a fictional universe means so much to you that you need to rage and complain and moan on the internet about it, seriously, I'm being honest. You need to go seek some help or find some sort of counseling or something, because, yeah. And for what it's worth, I know a lot of people that didn't like the Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi aren't acting like that. I'm just pointing to the 4 of you that are doing that. Sorry. I'm just saying that, yeah, I've had that experience for a year, and you haven't seen me mention it once. I started making YouTube videos just after Rogue One. Didn't kill my fandom. Don't let Luke Skywalker kill yours. Sorry. And real quick, let's touch on Rey's parentage and Snoke's death. Snoke is a plot device. Yeah, all characters are plot devices in everything. Sorry. That's how I feel about it. All characters are plot devices in every story ever. Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, The Expanse, they're all plot devices for each other to progress the story forward. And we built up Snoke into something big and special and awesome. We get to see him do some pretty cool Force abilities in this movie, but his main point towards existing was to start the corruption in Kylo. That was his main job. And he did that, and now we get a super way more interesting villain, in my opinion, rather than a Vader or a Palpatine 2.0. And about Rey's parentage. Oh boy. Oh boy. All right. I've seen way too many people talking on the internet about, I think Kylo's lying to her. Guys, I've seen it 3 times now, and I am 95% sure Rey says it first. Rey tells you that they're nobody. She says they're nobody after he pushes her to say it, and then he elaborates on it. She wasn't like an infant when she was abandoned on Jakku. She was like in between 5 and 8 years old. She would remember her parents. She would remember what they were. She might have blocked it out for a long time in a vain hope that they'll come back for her, but she remembers and knows who they are. We're seeing her face it. She says who they are. Don't know. Like, Rey is from a no place. She's from a nobody. It's not a big deal. And now with that being said, I know I'm a little biased because I've always wanted Rey to be a nobody because I care about what the character is now. And on the subject of, oh, they hyped him up, they asked all these questions about it. No, Rey's parentage means something to her. That was what TFA was doing, in my opinion. They were telling us that her main flaw is her obsession with her parents. And that is important for how that character acts in TFA and in The Last Jedi. Again, just one fan's opinion. And finally, we have the Little Broom Boy. I don't remember his name. I know he's in the visual dictionary. I've got that coming in the mail on Wednesday. Little Broom Boy. That stupid little ring. There is something so romantic about the idea of something so romantic and beautiful and extraordinary and astonishing about one little ship that happens to be the Millennium Falcon screeching across the galaxy, inspiring more and more people. Like that's the only thing that's left out of the hope for the galaxy. One little spark, one little ship that's just screaming through the galaxy, inspiring kid after kid after kid, and even inspiring others to rise to greatness. And I see people saying it's a Target commercial. Yeah, the Target commercials are touching. What's wrong with that? Like, I don't know. I don't understand how cynics... Like, I'm a cynical person too, for the most part, with a lot of things, but Star Wars is one of the few things that allows me to be not cynical. So, I don't know. I love just the hope and the... so good. Cinematography, everything. As much as I want a Origin of the Force story, Origin of Force User story from Rian Johnson's new trilogy, I am more than happy if we get a post Episode 9 story about Broom Boy. I'd be so happy with that. But anyways, I have now rambled on for far too long, and I've primarily just complained about the fandom on the internet. Sorry about that. Now, real quick, before I get out of here, I do just want to mention, if you do have legitimate concerns or legitimate critiques about The Last Jedi, there are many of them. There are problems with The Last Jedi. Please let me know down in the comments down below. If there's enough of them, I might even make a video out of me responding to you, because I want to make I want to help people understand why I love the film, and I want to try and enhance other people's enjoyment of it. If you had a serious problem with something in Rogue One, or in Rogue One, if you had a serious problem with something in The Last Jedi, please leave it as a comment to this video, and I promise you I will either answer it in text, or if there's enough of them, I might even make a video about it and read them out and talk back to you guys. Thank you guys as always for your time. Thank you for listening to this unapologetic Disney fanboy ramble on for God only knows how long this video is going to end up being, because as of right now the recording is running at 40 minutes almost. Thank you as always, and may the Force be with you. See you around, kids.